Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for coming there at home. As I was sitting here, and thank you, Bob and Barbara, so much, it's funny how I thought of something I should have thought of something quite a while ago. So the last time I was on a plane was in late February of 2019, and it was with the Revs Grabowski. And we had just been to the Centers for Spiritual Living annual convention. At that year, it was in Denver, Colorado. It's at a different place every year. And that was the convention that Bob was rightfully honored and conferred an honorary doctorate. Now, normally, that is would be such big news, which it was, and we would have done something. And of course, any excuse to bring out a cake or something, nothing against you, Bob. It's just like we would have done something, and then we kind of zoof into COVID. And actually, the last couple of weeks, I've just starting to dawn on me things that got kind of put aside because, like I said, we entered this endless Twilight Zone episode that we're working ourselves out of. So, officially, congratulations, Bob. How amazing. And of course, it's funny, like in literature, there's foreshadowing. I remember conversations at the airport, isn't there something going on in China that you heard about? And it's just so, but anyways, it's not over, but it seems like we have moved forward at the same time, because here we are, and here you are. Thank you. Before I move on, I just want to give a little update on a couple things. After, of course, a period of time where it seemed like we were in retreat, I think all of us in retreat on some level, we're doing a couple big things. As most of you know, we adopted a refugee family, and Christine will give at the end of the service a little update of where we are with that. And I remember, as I said last week, it was a little daunting to take on this big responsibility because we're going to furnish their home, and to the point of putting shampoo in the shower. And at first it was like, God, can we do that? And we are. It's like everyone has responded so wonderfully. I mean, doesn't it feel good just to do something after maybe feeling helpless for so long? It's like to actually do something that matters and makes a difference in someone's life. So if I have a few moments during my day, during the week that I feel down, I think about that, and I think about what you all are doing, and I think, well, that's pretty amazing. And the second thing, most of you know, we had a very generous offer of a matching grant by the Hughes to pay off our mortgage. Basically, they are donating $20,000, and we are raising the other $20,000, which will add up to $40,000, which miraculously is just about where the mortgage is, and we are at $9,300 in 1 week. So thank you those who have contributed. And so, like I said, and it's not even about the money. It's just like we're on the move. Like I said last week, it's time to turn a page to the next thing that we're doing. And when you turn the page, like I said, you're not even sure what's on that next page, but there is excitement and anticipation to say that there is a next page, and we're signed up even if we don't exactly know what's on there. And I think that's what life is about. It's having an intention and this desire to do something in the world that makes a difference, even if it's just that big. And I believe that's what we're doing. So, in thinking about what we should go over today, let's do a holiday preview. Yes, let's do a holiday preview. I think in years past, as we entered this time of year, we could have a tendency to embark on these holidays in just autopilot. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. I go to Mom's. I make green beans casserole. I don't have to think about anything else. You just do it. And there's good things about that sort of, consistency. Of course, last year, many, if not most of us, we were kind of on hiatus on get-togethers. And so this year, we are more mindful about it. Many of us are. Many of us aren't. But we're all thinking well, are there any extra things we need to do, precautions, and so it's a very mindful experience as opposed to saying we just all go over to grandma's. But I think besides just the physical things that we are doing, I think this is a really good time to preview, to ask ourselves, what do you want to happen in your life inwardly as a result of this holiday season? I mean, to open up to a different experience. And I was listening to a spiritual teacher I follow occasionally on YouTube, because everything in the world is on YouTube if you haven't discovered this. It's really wonderful. In saying that, of course, first of all, there are so many observances throughout the world, and that we have a tendency in the United States to refer to these as the holiday season, whereas different parts of the world have more of a tendency to refer to it as the season of holy days. And so, depending on what your religious bent might be, that the word holy might mean something different to you. But to even think of it, as I was thinking of that, not specific to a particular religion or spiritual path, but to just, for starters, as we are embarking next week on Thanksgiving, to start to think of the next few weeks as days that can be holy. And that this time of year is really devised, interestingly enough, to have us recognize the holy, to be in awe, to realize great transformations, both inwardly and outwardly, and that if we give ourselves over to this, our lives can change. The world can change. And I just quickly did a little list of some of the holidays or holy days that are happening in November and December. Of course, we're specific around more Western world, but there's so many things. Of course, we start with Veterans Day, which is really important. We have Thanksgiving. There are 3 Hindu observances during this 2-month period. In Buddhism, there is Bodhi Day on December 8th, which is celebrating the enlightenment of Buddha. There is Hanukkah, of course, which I believe is coming up a little bit earlier this year. There's an observance in Persia called Yalda. There is the African observance of Kwanzaa. And then we top it off with the New Year. But an observance that is within there I didn't mention, that has, I think, a lot of symbolic importance, is the winter solstice. Many different religions or indigenous cultures have put just great, recognition into that. And when you look at the symbolism of it, it is so important, especially as we are looking to make our lives holy. And I don't mean holier than thou holy. I mean holy meaning wholeness and oneness, and not setting up, impossible standards of thou shalt nots kind of things. Holy as in wholeness and in connection, and even as, thank you, Barbara, for mentioning finally calling your sister. We've been talking about this forever. My job would be so much easier if you just make these calls. But something as simple as that we separate ourselves, that we talk about wholeness and connection, but yet we are the ones that take the step back, which means it is each of us that need to take the step forward. So here's such a great symbolic thing about the solstice. As we know, this winter solstice is the darkest night of the year, the longest night, the shortest day, but the moment of transformation is the realization that the day after, the day is just this much longer. And it's starting the day to get longer, leading up to our favorite moment, mid-June, when it seems like it never gets dark. But here's an interesting thing about that. A culture who recognizes that has to have some sort of knowledge about astronomy. Because on the solstice, if you had no knowledge, you would have no idea that the next day was going to be just a little bit longer. In fact, you would be so enveloped or about it being dark and seemingly forever that you wouldn't have any hope that it could get any better. So imagine, again, a civilization that has yet to study astronomy or to know how that things work. So part of our understanding is that when you are in your darkest moments, that there can be shifts, and it might be a while till you see them. And that's part of what we can recognize this year, that we are working for inner shifts to transform our lives in the world. And we say, well, when will it ever start to take place? When will it make a difference? I don't see a difference. But know that once you start something, the ball gets rolling. So that's part of the holiness of the season, is to have great faith and awe in how things work beyond our understanding. That it's a belief this time of year, not so much in miracles of an external being suspending the laws of physics in a certain way, or time and space. It's about knowing that we co-create with the creative force of the universe. And the miracle truly is not, again, physics being suspended. The miracle is that we become humble and change. The miracle is that we decide to show up differently. The miracle is if you are coming together with family sometime during the next few weeks, and if there is some contention in the household, that you show up changed and open, healed and ready to forgive. I mean, that's a miracle, isn't it? The things that we hold. I mean, we talk about miracles being these huge things, partings of Red Seas and all that. Sometimes facing your siblings or aunt or uncle at Thanksgiving is a much bigger miracle. And it really is. We think, well, no, I'm thinking of like the big miracles. No, this is big. And I just even thinking of as coming together as family, there's always family drama lurking, isn't there? There is with us this year. And it's like, what are we going to do when we see them? Do we talk about it? Do we talk behind their back about it? The miracle, yeah, you do the same thing, don't you? The miracle is that we go with an elevated consciousness and allow the experience to be different. So I would like to set us up a bit for, I guess, say our spiritual practice for the season. And really tied to how we teach a process of prayer within Light of the Mountains and the Science of Mind philosophy. What's interesting about the way we teach prayer, on one hand, the divine and God or universe, however you label it, is unlimited, is it expansive. I think of it as nonlinear, meaning it doesn't make sense to us all the time as human beings because we like ABC, and sometimes it's not even close. But yet the way that we teach of doing what we call affirmative prayer is linear of sorts. And it's in 5 sections, and the reason for this is what I call it is 5 reminders. 5 reminders to how you can challenge yourself to embrace the miracle of changing yourself. And again, that's all that prayer does. It doesn't change your neighbor, doesn't change your pet's behavior. It can only change you. And again, the miracle is all of us showing up differently in the holiday season. Big miracle. But each one of these challenges, like at first, yeah, that sounds great. And then there's like, oh, but that means that too, doesn't it? That's where we go, well, I think I'll start this after New Year's. It's a little, might be a little bit too much right now. But actually, this is what this time of year has been designed to. It's been, again, designed to embrace the fact that the miraculous can happen. And so in the first challenge of our prayer is something that sounds so simple until you think about it. It's simple. It's a simple statement. It says, Spirit is all there is. God is all there is. The intelligence in the universe is all there is. However you see that divine presence, put in your own verbiage. And we say that it exists at the cellular level. And that sounds great, especially here. We like everybody. Or we know that if we don't know them, we could like them because they're here and they all got up early and showed up at the same place. But here's the downsides, and it also shows up during the holiday season, is that the difficult thing about that is that presence of the divine is in the things that we don't like equally as well. It's in the things that are horrific. It's in the things that trouble us and cause us grief. It's the things that we stay awake throughout the night being bothered by, that the presence of the divine and God is still there too. And it's troubling to try to understand that. And it's so easy to go back to this idea of God being a parental figure that has the ultimate time out privilege. To say, no, you guys are going too far here. No, stop. No, you can't do that. That's not how this works. That the way that the power of the divine works is that our free will is absolute. And we can co-create in our lives to create things that are amazing, that are wonderful, that are life-changing, and we can also choose to create things that are horrific with the same power. Just like a great example is electricity. The miracles that we do, seemingly with technology with electricity, and it can kill you. Don't blow dry your hair in the bathtub. Doesn't work out well for most people. It's just, so the thing is you have the choice, you could do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. So part of this idea of prayer, especially this time of season when we're thinking of it as a time of miracles, a time of wholeness, and a time of being holy, is that it is up to each one of us to make the decision of how that power and presence that works through us is used. We can do it to create great joy and transformation, and we can use it to do terrible things. And so for me, this time of miracles and wholeness is to choose to do the right thing. Choose to do the right thing when it's difficult. Choose to do the right thing when we think, no, I just can't forgive. I just can't give that up. I've been offended and hurt so badly that I just can't. But in this time of year, to choose to do so anyway. Again, that is the miracle, to choose to do so anyway. And the second step of this very linear type of prayer that we teach is that we say that God's Spirit is all there is. And this next part is so important because the second part acknowledges, and it is also within me. You'd think that number one would cover that, but it doesn't. How often do we think that, especially when it comes to spiritual things, that somehow I'm unworthy? Somehow I just don't live up to it, or I'm unlovable or incapable in some way. That, yeah, all that God stuff, spirit stuff is for everyone else, but not for me. I've got too much to make up. I've made so many bad decisions and done so many hurtful things. How could that possibly describe who I am and what flows through me? That I have to do so much before I could even, in my ego, say that power and presence of the divine is right where I am. One of our biggest healings in the world is to accept that it is. It doesn't mean that we haven't made mistakes. It doesn't mean that I personally have not done things that I'm not proud of. It doesn't mean that we have not all done things that we need to make amends for. But it doesn't mean that you're any less deserving. Healing the world, which we all would like to be on board with, starts with healing within ourselves. You can't show up to expect or want miracles to unfold in the world until you allow that miracle to unfold within you, to know that the presence of the divine is right where you are. Warts and all. It's there. It's in the warts too. That's a big thing to understand. And as we look at all the stories of this season, depending on whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or any of the others, the stories involve everyday people. Just everyday people that amazing things happen to. And that's the other part of the lesson. They happen through all of us. So in this, now you could spend the rest of your spiritual practice with those two concepts. Spirit is all there is and is within me. If you are in a situation this holiday time of holy days that you come face to face with a conflict with your family or anyone else, and if you just silently within yourself said, God is all there is and God is within me. God is all there is, God is within me. God is all there is, God is within me. You could change the situation like that. Imagine that in just the conflict that we get. I mean, haven't we had so much conflict this last year and a half, 2 years, and we make things that honestly aren't that important so important, that we just get on the edge about certain things and we make it life and death and it's not, and we just kind of hold on to it. And so imagine the next time, this time of year, that you allowed yourself to get into that inner conversation, because we all do. None of us are above that. And if you started running that mantra of God is all there is and God is within me. God is all there is, God is within me. God is all there is, God is within me. God is all there is and God is within me. How might you change how you show up in that little interaction? I mean, just really think of it. How might you at that moment be transformed and show up differently and diffuse the situation that you are in? Think about that. And for myself, I call it back burner conversations in my head. Because we all get in those moments like, and to have the state of mind or consciousness, at least for me, to challenge myself to have, again, what I call the back burner conversations. The conversations that are much more true than the ones that you were about to have if you're in a conflict. God is all there is. I am one with God. The divine is all there is. The divine is with me. I mean, that's the thing of what miracles are made of, I think. And so the next step of this is to state within this perfection, state a desire that you would like to see in the world. And I'm not talking about Christmas lists. Not necessarily that we don't want a little something, but what do you really want? What would make a difference? I mean, what would really make a difference? I mean, and let's not think we can't think big about this. How would you like to make a difference in the world? And without thinking, how could I ever even begin? How would you like the world to be different? In a way that included everybody. In a way that was less conflict. Often when we think of this, what's the biggest ticket item that often comes up? I want world peace. Well, how can I do that? There's 8 billion people here. How can I? Well, do I call everybody up? Do I send, a chain letter? Do they still do that? Chain emails. But here's the fine print of this. So you can set something that big, but here's the fine print. You have to do it within yourself first. Oh, that Reverend John. I would rather just farm this out and let everyone else do it. It would be much easier, in fact, if my next door neighbor could take care of this for me. So our job in these days that are holy are to mirror what we want on the larger stage within ourselves and within our own lives. And to do it with the expectation that amazing things will happen. Many, many years ago, oh God, how many years ago was this? A few weeks after Bob and Barbara came here for the first time, the place I was working, and there was a customer, and she gave me a business card. Regular business card. What was interesting about this, it did not have her name on it, didn't have a phone number or address on it. It just had 3 words on it. Centered, it said, expect a miracle. She handed these out all the time. I think I carried that in my wallet for about 10 years until it finally just disintegrated. But it was a reminder. So, and even I remember my conversation with her was to have, again, not this expectation that the Red Sea is going to part, but this expectation that amazing things can happen at any time and any moment, and that you can be the source of that miracle. Simply with the expectation that it can happen. And this time of year is about the receptivity of the amazing happening to just anyone. So how often may you have, or me, or any of us, said a prayer or made an affirmation in the past and going, I'd really like it, but, it's really, it just can't happen, can it? So part of this time of year is to have a higher level of expectation that something amazing can happen. And one good way to really enrich this idea is that all of us have had this happen in our lives before, where seemingly out of nowhere, something amazing happened. So remind yourself of those moments. We all have them. It wasn't like a one-off sort of thing, that we can open ourselves up to a receptivity where unexpectedly, just having the expectation of the amazing things happen, that they will. And the next portion that we go into, which I think almost should be like the first thing we talk about, like right now in our holiday season, what we think of it as officially being launched with Thanksgiving. So the next step for this is giving thanks. But a different type of giving thanks. As Westerners, we've been trained and taught that gratitude or thanksgiving is something that is transactional. I give you something and you are grateful. It's not that kind. It's not like just counting, which is wonderful, the blessings and great things in your life. Gratitude and thanksgiving is a mindset that you live in, where you have an expectation of amazing things happened, even when you don't see them. It's giving thanks without seeing the evidence. It's an opening up and just getting back to expect a miracle, because there's no way that they can't. So it's giving thanks before you see that which you are seeking. And think about this. In moments that you have been, and we all have them, spontaneously in gratitude, in those moments, could you think of anything else? Could you even comprehend something big that you were working on not coming to fruition? I mean, think about it. That power of thanksgiving is huge, by which all things come from. So that's why when we do prayer in our spiritual practice here, we always talk about it, or in affirmation mode, as it has already taken place. Not somewhere else. It's something that has already taken place. So to think about this, whatever you're working on, your inner peace, world peace, and think about it in thanksgiving as already so. And the power in that is that not only are you in expectation, but that which you have been carrying that has weighed you down has a way of just being released, being put aside. Not seeming to have that type of connection or attachment to you anymore. In fact, it was just so interesting that, and part of this time of year of Thanksgiving is just entertaining the idea of awe, of amazing things can happen. And I've been obsessed with a certain new musician that's new to me on the internet the last few days. And I was just reading the little, we put in a little comments. And this one thing just touched me so much. He said, listening to your music allowed me to lay my burdens down. So the power of gratitude and awe is endless. In that just one line, I could just see that something that she had been holding on to for so long, that she was so elevated by the awe of the music, that she was able to lay that old thing down. So this time of year, who are you going to be with? What are you bringing to the party? And what are you choosing to leave behind? Which leads us to the very last thing, which is letting it go. Like I say, what is that? The book that many of us have loved over the last few years, Untethered Soul. Cut the cord, as they say. Not like, but I may need to be, traumatized a little bit later on. So I think I'll just hide it over here a little bit, just in case, so I don't forget. Oh yeah, I really want to remember how mad I was at that person. So let me just put it over here for a little bit. It'll just be like a thread. You won't even see it. Well, sooner or later you start reeling that thing in. So we talk about releasing it in two ways. One, unconditionally saying enough, and releasing it into the creative force of the universe to figure it out. So imagine if you made this your spiritual practice starting today through New Year's. Every day you're going to see the presence of God is all there is, and that is within you. And that you are going to have a higher idea of what you would like to see in the world and know that it starts with you, and your spiritual practice is from the time you get out of bed till you go at night is to do that in some way. And that you continue to live in gratitude and to seek things that put you in the energy of awe. And you're willing to just let it go. Wouldn't that be days that are holy this time of year? Wouldn't it significantly change the course of your life if you did that each and every day? And wouldn't it be even more amazing that once you got to January 1st, it's like, I'm on a roll. I'm not going to stop this. It's not like, oh, I'm done now. I'll come back to it next year. That your life will be forever changed. So let me just... I have two quotes here. Which one do I want to read? This one's by Roger Teal from a book he wrote, This Life is Joy. Believe in the open invitation to manifestation. Believe in the possibilities inherent within a problem. Make yourself available to guidance, inspiration, and innovation. Move from reactivity to higher order creativity. So, let's take this to prayer. How amazing that we chose to live right now. And as we symbolically come to Thanksgiving, let us open ourselves up to greater gratitude. Gratitude for that which we don't even see. Gratitude for the opportunities to simply be in awe and wonder. And in that awe and wonder, we allow ourselves to be forever changed. Spirit is all there is. It is within me. I show up in that truth in all that I do. I am grateful for it, and I let it go. And that's all that is important. And so it is.